I got you into a Remington party. What's my thanks? It's on the hallway carpet. I got paid in puke. Lick it up, baby. I got paid in puke.
Welcome to Paid in Puke, a podcast where three women with names discuss movies that are about something other than a man. Paid in Puke is hosted by Amy Green, Christina Barr, and Jessica Baxter. It's also a spoiler-filled free-for-all. You've been warned. Today we're talking about the 2019 movie Hustlers, which is directed by Lorene Scafaria, and she also wrote the screenplay based on a 2015 New York Magazine article by Jessica Pressler.
Front hook, ankle hook, knee hook. From here you can do the carousel, the switch, and wrap. I just want to take care of my grandma, maybe go shopping every once in a while.
When I was a kid, I always wanted to work with animals. I was close.
Shake a little ass, you get a little bag.
These Wall Street guys, you see what they did to this country? They stole from everybody. Hardworking people lost everything. And not one of these douchebags went to jail.
The game is rigged, and it does not reward people who play by the rules.
It's like robbing a bank, except you get the keys. Are you in?
I got a I need a cash. Shit, I need a for my life.
These are my coworkers.
Jobs, please.
What if somebody calls the cops?
And says what?
I spent $5,000 at a strip club, send help.
Damn,
We're a family now.
damn,
A family with money.
damn.
And when would you say that things got out of control?
So the guy went back 3 more times.
Guess he must have liked it.
Boom, hammer time. I was born to play. Diamonds on my neck. I like boarding jets. I like more than sex. But nothing in this world that I like more than sex.
We didn't do anything wrong. You know, Tony wouldn't let this happen. I'm gonna text him.
Who gave her phone back?
Jump it down, back it up. Ooh, ayy. Nick down, too.
Hustlers stars Constance from Crazy Rich Asians and Fresh Off the Boat, and Jennifer Lopez from Being Jennifer Lopez. It's a feminist revenge story. It's the story of love between work wives, and it's about how sex work is real work. With me today is Amy Green.
Hello.
And Christina Barr.
Hi.
And I'm Jessica Baxter. Welcome to Paid and Puke. Ladies, what do we think about Hustlers?
Hustlers for me was like candy. I love a ladies' revenge story. like put it in my veins. I also like stuff that is in a strip club or like really celebrating the female form, kind of J-Lo being like 50 years old and being on the pole like that. I enjoy it on a different way from how a man would enjoy it, but I still very much enjoy watching that. You know, like when women on the pole, like it's like they're defying gravity. It's amazing, you know.
It's beautiful. It's gymnastics, it's athleticism. I mean, she talks about the amount of core strength it takes to do the tricks that she's pulling off. J-Lo looks amazing, of course.
I know.
Constance Wu is 37,
Oh,
so
wow.
she's no
Wow.
spring chicken, but she looks it. Looks like a spring chicken, I think.
Yeah. J-Lo was amazing. I totally think she'll get a nomination out of this. From the moment she got introduced into the movie with the Ramona entrance with the Criminal by Fiona Apple pole dance, she just like owned that, and it was awesome.
I watched a really good feature about that scene, which they apparently shot like a stunt because J-Lo said she knew the choreography, you know, inside and out, but she does have limitations physically, so she said, I can't do this 100 times. So they had a bunch of cameras set up, and she said, I'm just going to go until I can't do it anymore.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And she still ended up doing it a lot of times, but she kept asking how she could shorten it. Like, did you get this part? Did you get this part? I'll do this part again. I can't even imagine doing what she did once, let alone numerous times.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that, how many takes they do. Like, I've never been to that kind of strip club. Like, the only kind of been to is the divey Portland kind. You know, like, but there was where it's like there's really like a star like on the main stage, like announced like that, and people just throwing money. Is that real at all, or is that a movie version of strip clubs? Like, does anybody know?
I don't really know because I've only really been to the boutique Portland strip clubs, which are not, they're like strip clubs in fairy tale land. It's a very empowering place where anything skeezy happens and then people get kicked out immediately. I mean, I'm sure people could tell some tales, but there were certainly stars in Portland. I remember people saying, you have to go to this one place because there's this girl who does a snake dance, and then there's this girl who does something with fire. So there's some people with gimmicks. She didn't really have a gimmick other than being just super amazing at the pole work.
Yeah. I mean, I love that scene where she's sort of, after she's taking Constance Wu under her wing, and she's like, there's that scene where she's teaching her all the moves, and she's like,
Front hook. Ankle hook. Yep. Knee hook. Hold on with that knee. Okay. Come here, you can do the carousel. Put your head back. Come down. You can do Peter Pan. Knee hook. Just spin.
Jesus Christ.
Then you can go into a fairy sit. Oh. Stag.
That's pretty.
Reverse stag.
That's pretty too.
Scissor sit. Tabletop.
I can't do that.
You can do that. You're gonna do that. A climb.
What if you don't have muscles to do that?
You have muscles to do this.
I don't have any.
Every girl has muscles to do this. You do this one. This is a martini.
I'm like, whoa, there's so many different ways to be on the pole.
They're moves.
Yeah, lots of moves.
Choreography, basically. They're not just messing around.
Yeah, you think of, like, I think what people who've never been to strip clubs or never really thought about it think of, like, you know, girls just sort of like holding onto the pole and humping it, basically. Like, yeah. You know, this is like real gymnasts is just the pole is vertical instead of horizontal.
I think maybe the place it was from the article was Scores in New York City, which I had heard of before, but I would guess like if it's like these like rich Wall Street guys going to it, it's probably like a really like expensive place. Maybe like all of the dancers have more skills, I guess, than like just like the regular like strip club. I don't know.
Yeah, I loved how representational that strip club was, and again, I don't know how realistic this is for that sort of place, for the the upscale Wall Street destination, but they had people of all shapes and sizes. Lizzo was in the house.
Yeah.
Well, then Lizzo had backstage.
Yeah.
Who's gonna work that flute in anyway?
Oh, that was awesome.
This is something I'm very good at. I'm just gonna have it.
I always imagine it's just like her mom was like, I paid for years of flute lessons.
I taught you that flute.
Right.
Still the same flute she had in band in high school. There's a trans woman in the room. Trace Lissette for Transparent.
Oh,
but
okay.
Cardi B was there.
I would imagine that places like that probably are pretty diverse, even if just because of men fetishizing different races.
Mm-hmm.
Like not even in like a woke way, like, oh yeah, we hire for diversity, but more like, I'm sure there are guys who go in there and like they want some Asian woman to dance for them. You know, like how they showed right away, like some guy calls her Lucy Lou. My guess is there is a lot of representation, but not from a good place.
I mean, certainly, like, when I've been in Vegas, I haven't been to strip clubs there, but I've been to places where showgirls were, and I've been to a showgirls show. They would have different races, but not different body types. Everyone had almost the exact same body. Mm-hmm. That, I guess I was mostly marveling at the fact that there was such a wide variety of body types. That's something you would see in Portland also.
Yeah.
Which is why I loved it so much when we first went to a Portland strip club. Any woman could walk in here and find a woman who looks just like them on that stage and feel empowered by what they're doing.
Right.
I don't know.
Probably the opposite of Portland.
Yeah.
like in Tampa, they have like a ton of strip clubs, and like that's where like Magic Mike took place. I think that was because the sex capital of Florida, allegedly. I don't know, but I remember seeing like when in high school we went for like some school event or something, and we drove past like a strip club that was also like a a car wash at the same time, and it was like, what? They're stripping in the car wash? What is happening? There was this strip club like off of I-75 called Cafe Risque that I'm pretty sure they had like a lot of like underage kids. I just remember like bad things about it.
Yeah.
But anyway, sorry, that went in a really dark place.
I guess it makes sense that talking about strip clubs will eventually get dark. Because I'm in this movie too, even though it's empowering in a lot of ways.
Yeah. I mean, I think that was a big question for me before, during, and after. It's like, is it empowering, you know? Because it kind of is and it kind of isn't, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, you see, you know, J-Lo's character is really like the star of the whole thing, but you also see like her being like degraded or sort of you know, or even just the guy saying, hey, can you take off, we're just not feeling you, you know? And is it empowering or is it not, or a little bit of both? I don't, you know. I mean, I think it definitely can be, though.
Yeah, I mean, I think they were empowering themselves for a short time. And it wasn't a sustainable business model because it was illegal. And that's just always a risk, I guess. It's the way they present the guys. Most of the people that they were scamming did deserve it. I feel like that's how they were presenting it. Right. They were people who literally stole from hardworking Americans, and now they were getting what was coming to them. The government did not dole out their punishments, but they were getting punishments in this way and benefiting these women as well, who'd been working hard for years and not getting any credit for it. There's so much shame around their profession and so much stigma, even though it's something that men want, but then at the same time they disrespect them for doing it. It's ridiculous.
They were stripping, but they all had like these, like Ramona, Jennifer Lopez, like she had like these long-term plans, like she's gonna be a designer. I thought that part with the denim swimwear was, it was just a funny moment. I mean, it is like a really quick way to get a lot of money if you want to like change your situation. But then like they started like spending their money on like all this crazy stuff, and eventually, and then it's like, oh man.
That seems like a common folly. You make a lot of money and then you say, well, I can treat myself a little bit, but then you run out of money and you have to make more money and you kind of never end up saving any money.
Yeah, that drives me crazy in movies. When like, I love a good montage of the money rolling in. I love it. But it drives me crazy, especially that kind of thing where you know, like, things are going to go south. Like, when there's so much money coming in, it's like, like, come on.
I know, that's sort of what I was thinking. I'm like, don't spend it all.
For life. If you're raking in money like that, makes you, you know,
just talk to some of those Wall Street guys about investing.
Because
clearly they know how to do it.
I was kind of asking more like in general, is like working in a strip club or being a stripper or a dancer or whatever. Like, is that an empowering job or is it a demeaning job? I guess it can be either one. You know, I think the most degrading thing that you see in that movie is when J-Lo is like working a minimum wage retail job, you know, like having to like beg for like getting out an hour early to go pick her kid up and being turned down, you know, like that.
Yeah.
I think so many people have this absolute rigid idea that like a woman working in a strip club, like that's the lowest thing they can do. Which would you rather, if you could have either, you know, if you could be J-Lo on the stage dancing as a criminal, people throwing dollars at her, or be J-Lo in the uniform, like asking,
folding sweaters and begging for an hour to leave an hour early.
Oh, I know. Just seeing her folding sweaters at Old Navy, I was like, no, that's Ramona. Yeah, and then her boss treating her like shit for like wanting to take care of her kid, and then... Although, I don't know, maybe she wanted to cut out early to go to the club to make more money because it was like a Friday, wasn't it?
Want to pick up her kid.
Oh, it was? Yeah.
It was just the way she mentioned it. It was something like, you know, my daughter gets out an hour early for the rest of the school year.
Oh.
That's totally a thing that happens. I feel for parents who have rigid work schedules all the time. Every time the public school's like, oh yeah, we're just have the day off today.
Or like every Wednesday.
Or exactly. And they do stuff like that, and it does screw people a lot. And then, and he's like, well, when are you going to babysit her? Because then it makes working the extra hours moot, basically.
I think they did a good job showing that people have this idea that the system works. If you work... That, you know, people who want assistance or whatever, like, well, you're just not willing to work, you know, and that you can you can work full time, you know, not even, I mean, in Seattle, like, not even minimum wage, like, you could work full time, double minimum wage and still barely afford to live here. you know, when they do kind of go straight for that period where, you know, she's working retail. It's so hard to support yourself and sustain, you know. They really did show how the system is rigged against you, you know, and you're a sucker for playing by the rules.
And it really made you understand how they turned to that. Constance Wu's character, Destiny, well, her stripper name is Destiny. I think her real name is...
I think it's Dorothy.
Dorothy, yeah. The framing device of the movie is that she's talking to the writer for the New York Magazine article. Mm-hmm. It seems like she's just kind of telling sob stories about what it was like to work in the strip club, and then she kind of says, well, I'm just trying to explain to you where my head was at the night that I met Ramona again, and she pitched this hustle to me. Right before she saw Ramona, she'd been away for a while. She tried to get a job at a department store, and the interview went terribly because the interviewer said she didn't have any retail experience.
Oh yeah, that was...
Even though she said, well, I don't know if she really did or didn't sling beers at the strip club, but either way, she obviously had experience selling things. She couldn't really outline her experience because she knew that she would be discriminated against for that. Right. But then she still didn't get the job anyway, and she ended up back at Scores. And she found that almost everybody she knew was gone, and it was a bunch of new women who were actually giving blowjobs for money. It's that was part of the deal. And she didn't want to do it, but then she kind of got pressured into it by this guy. He said he was putting out $100 bills, but it was really dark. And then when she finished, she found out that he was putting out 20s instead. So she got way undercut for something she didn't want to do anyway, and that's when she ran into Ramona. They did a really good job showing how it just seemed like the only thing for her to do at that point. Because she had a daughter at home, she had a grandmother who she was supporting also. Her character was so sad, and all of it was based on this story of this woman in the article. There was a lot of truth to it. Her parents had left her when she was little, and she was raised by her grandma, and then she had to support her grandma, and then she hooked up with this guy, and then he turned out to be bad news, and then she was raising a little girl by herself. She really was in a desperate situation. The way Ramona presented it, it seemed so easy, and Ramona was high-rolling when she saw her, so she said, well, clearly this is working for you. I really like how all of the female characters in the movie are pretty well fleshed out. I mean, even ones that you don't see that much of. Like the two other ladies that they hook up with, really kind of get to know them and their quirks. And then all the guys in the movie are one-dimensional characters of monsters, basically. And to the point where even in the credits, they're listed as creepy guy and cool dude and Wall Street guy.
Yeah. The guys are interchangeable, which is a nice, refreshing change.
And I think every woman in that movie has a name, even in the credits, which is nice.
Oh, that is nice.
Yes, I also like how the movie portrays the women's bodies. The camera celebrates their bodies, but it also is close up on their faces most of the time. So you can't ever separate the two. You can't ever really gaze at their bodies without looking at their faces. I thought that was really an empowering way to shoot it, and also a very bold way to shoot it, because you were just looking right in their faces all the time. I actually saw pores a couple times, which I couldn't believe.
Yeah, I feel like I really got J-Lo's skin.
Yeah.
I remember watching her as a fly girl on Living Color, all her music videos, and she just, I can't believe she's 50. She's just, I mean, she hasn't aged at all. I read something somebody was saying it's her best movie since Out of Sight. I feel like that's her best movie ever. I mean Out of Sight was good, but...
Out of Sight is the only other thing I've ever seen her in. So, she's this awesome badass, you know?
Yeah. The other movie, I mean, there are lots of rom-coms, but...
Selena
I mean,
was reviewed. I mean, it's certainly not Geely or whatever, you know?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I guess it's not... The wedding planner, stepmom or something, or stepmom with the Jane Fonda Monster. See, I don't even remember what it's called. I want her to get an Oscar nomination for that. I think that would be amazing.
I'm sure she will.
Yeah.
I can already picture the scene and everything.
I know.
Yeah, totally.
I love watching the Oscars anyway, but I would love to watch her at the Oscars this year.
And would she wear that dress again?
Yeah.
I think she would, because she just wore it on the runway, her green Oscar dress.
I saw that, the Versace dress.
I love that she kept that dress, first of all. You get so many dresses when you're J-Lo caliber.
Yeah, and that was like 20 years ago.
I remember when the South Park guy dressed as her too. I don't know. I just remember that was like parodied a lot. That's just like a pop culture moment when she wore that dress to the Oscars.
And then one of them was dressed as Gwyneth Paltrow.
Yeah.
In her pink.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
That Oscar dress with Gwyneth Paltrow really bothered me. I was really watching to see what she would wear because she had worn a lot of great dresses to all the award shows leading up to it, and then it was like so black, and I thought it fit so weird, you know, like it was like such a like prom dress kind of dress. It didn't fit well, and also her hair was like in this really tight bun. Because I was so looking forward to see what she would wear. I have very mixed feelings about her in general, but she is very lovely to look at, and I was like, oh, that was such a disappointment. Especially also with the hair. Like the dress is like kind of low. It just like it was a weird fit. I was very disappointed in that. The whole look.
Interesting. I never thought about it that much. Not that I haven't thought about people's outfits a lot. I definitely thought about Rose McGowan's dress.
Oh, the like naked one?
Yeah.
Sure.
Right. With when she was dating
Marilyn Manson.
Marilyn Manson, yeah.
And she was basically just wearing like a mesh sack over a thong.
Right. That was a good outfit.
That was good. Yeah. I mean, she had the body to pull it off. No one was going to say she didn't look amazing in that. Fun fact about the South Park guys, they were on mushrooms when they were.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
They admitted that years later in an interview. I always loved them for that, though. I've always been a sucker for a guy in a dress. Drag queen or otherwise. How much did you want to climb into J-Lo's coat?
I did. I just like seeing her like on the roof smoking a cigarette with. I was just like, wow, she's like a total badass. Right. She knows it, you know, like she just owns that.
She's leaning back in this elegant way on the rooftop. Like she looked so comfortable on top of this freezing cold New York City roof with her cigarette. And there's a moment where the camera holds on her before Constance Wu shows up, where I was just like, wow, that's an incredible shot.
And then, yes, it was so cozy when she just like curls Constance Wu up in her big furry coat. And I loved their relationship in that movie. How intimate women's relationships can be, and it was not sexual at all, even though there was a lot of like physical closeness between them. I assume that like guys watching that movie are like waiting for them to start making out. They're so physically close so much. They just had this very intimate relationship and a special friendship. It just was what it was.
Yeah. And that scene where Destiny is talking to the journalist, and the journalist is like saying, oh yeah, I've talked with Ramona, and she said you were basically orphaned by your mom, and like kind of going into these like hard things that her character had experienced. I forget the line, but it was something like Ramona said you weren't only in it for the grift. It was kind of like wanting love or the friendship. Oh. She really had this sort of maternal friendship. They really became a family, and like that scene with all the strippers at Christmas time, and like they're all giving each other these awesome presents. Like, J-Lo's like, we're a family, we're a rich family. Everybody's so happy.
That was one of my favorite scenes because I love when there's a lot of money in a movie, and then I love Christmas.
Yeah.
It's like it was Christmas and they're raking it in. They spend so much money on each other, and they, how J-Lo was bonding with the grandma. It's just
like mixing in the Frankie Valli music, or like the older, like it almost had like the Goodfellas vibe to it. In the traditional, but it's like men mobster guys usually it would be, but this is like the strippers in New York City, and they're having their moment, making all this money. I thought that was really cool. The way that they just depicted 2007 and like the aughts, because it wasn't really that long ago, but there were just like subtle things about it. She's opening the shoes, like Keke Palmer's like, oh, they have the red bottoms. The Sex and the City Louboutins or whatever. I think it's Louboutins with the red bottoms. Yeah, that was a thing. I remember that. Just the music. But they did a great job with the music from 2007-ish. Like Britney Spears, Give Me More. Usher, I thought was a great addition when he had like the Love in This Club, that song, and Jennifer Lopez is like, what's your name? You know, like, and he's like, I'm Usher. Yeah, she owns that place. There was some other great music too, like Control. Like, they had a good bit of like Janet Jackson, earlier Janet Jackson, which I thought was awesome. I thought Control was a particularly good song. Like, it just like fit the spirit of the story. They're like owning their destiny. Yeah. And then her name's Destiny.
I also loved, like, once they got busted and then Constance Wu tells her that she, you know, took the deal that the cops had, how J-Lo didn't even really get that mad at her. You could tell it was really not what she wanted her to do. She could have been so mad because she kind of screws her over by doing that, and she's just kind of like... She was like, more like, oh, you and your dumb thing that you just did.
Yeah.
Like, she's more like, oh, why would you do that? And I thought, I got the picture, she was going to be so angry and storm off, and then it was just like, motherhood is mental.
Yeah, that line. I thought that line was so good.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not...
The first time I heard that line, I knew it was going to be called back later. She sells out everybody because she has a daughter, and she makes a deal, and she knows that she has to. I mean, motherhood is guilt. That's just, the two things go hand in hand.
I mean, I think the cops convinced her that she had to, but, like, I don't think she really did. J-Lo didn't get any jail time, and then it was like the other two, it was like they went to jail on weekends or something, you know?
Probation.
Yeah, that sounded like a...
Right, J-Lo got probation, and I think the cops convinced her this was her only shot of not doing jail time, but, you know, who knows if she really would have.
That seems like a pretty common thing, certainly in movies and TV shows, but probably also in real life, cops just over-exaggerating what the consequences will be if you don't confess to something.
Right.
They're just trying to get you to confess by any means necessary. I mean, especially if someone has a kid, they'll use that. If someone has a partner, they'll use anything they can to leverage. So that was one of the things that the real-life counterparts took issue with. Samantha Barbosh is the woman who inspired J-Lo's character, and she is actually suing the production company for defamation of character because she thinks that J-Lo's portrayal is not accurate enough for her, which is interesting because she's obviously comes across very justified in what she's doing. It's hard to imagine anyone taking issue with that performance or portrayal, but somehow she doesn't like it. And then the other woman, Rosalind Keough, is the name of the woman who Constance Wu is portraying. And she didn't like that scene outside the police station because she thought that it would have come to blows if we'd really done that. She told Barbosh over the phone that she was taking the deal. Oh. And they never spoke again. It's just, she's like, I liked that scene, but I thought it would have come to blows if it really had happened.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they were not as close. So that was the other thing that Barbosh said too, is that it wasn't accurate how close they portrayed the two women. But I mean, obviously it helps serve the story to have these two women have a sort of work-wife relationship. It's artistic license and it's based on a true story. It's not a documentary. I mean, I guess it stands to reason that someone who would run a scam like this would also try to get money out of the Hollywood portrayal of her, because she was pretty much cut out of it. I don't know if Keough got money from the movie, but certainly Barbosh did not.
Oh, interesting.
That's interesting. I wonder how much money, like, if she'll get anything out of that lawsuit or like.
I don't know. I mean, the name's changed. It's not. It seems like it'd be a hard one for her to win, especially since she didn't really even give very good reasons for why she didn't like the movie.
Right. I mean, she's not like denying that it happened, right? Like,
correct.
Right? Like. So it's kind of weird if, like, the part that's accurate is, like, yes, I really did drug people unknowingly and steal a bunch of money from them, but I don't like how you made me out, you know?
I wasn't really
true,
friends with the people I did it with, and I'm offended that you would say that I was friends with them.
I definitely got the feeling Constance Wu definitely wants to make more money and learn from J-Lo. She's willing to go in on the plan. She wants to keep it like no strangers, very like controlled. J-Lo ends up like taking it up a notch.
Right.
Like they brought in that girl that's like a druggie, like in and out of jail.
That was a real
just
thing.
Like
too,
a different.
Apparently was just not that specific character. I think she was kind of representative of just a type of person that Barbosh was bringing into the scams, because that's how they got caught, was that they just got reckless and tried to get faster payouts, hurrying it along and hiring and outsourcing too much and not really vetting the people that you're outsourcing to. And there really was a woman who sold them out. They had that failed sting operation. But, they were still able to get her afterwards and get her to confess. And that's how they caught everybody.
The guy who does go to the cops, how like they're saying no one's going to go to the cops.
Oh, yeah.
What am I going to do? And they bleeped out his name. Was that his actual name that they said in the movie, or was it just...
Maybe it was. It could have been, because there was one person who... There's always people calling the police like that. There's that scene where the cop is like eating pizza and he answers the phone and a guy says, I was robbed at a strip club, and he just hangs up immediately. Because apparently that really does happen all the time, where people are always trying to convince the police that they were robbed at a strip club. And that is what made the scam so perfect at first, was that who's gonna report this, and if they do report it, who's gonna believe them?
Right.
Most of the time, nobody. But this one guy recorded a conversation where one of the women admitted to it, and so when he called back and said, "I have proof," like, "Don't hang up, I have proof," then they talked to that guy, and that's why they set up the sting. Then they were like, "Okay, well, there is something here. I guess we do need to follow up on that."
That pizza slice looked really good.
Yeah. He was really enjoying it.
Yeah.
It was classic New York pizza.
I know. I do buy because I grew up in Jersey. I buy that kind of pizza that I am definitely one of the people that's like, yes, the pizza is better. The big slice that you have to fold like that.
Yeah. That's what they say.
I've already started underlining meaningful passages in her copy of Moby Dick, if you know what I mean.
Did you guys write down any lines that you liked? Any particular lines that stood out for you?
When she told the story about how Stevie Wonder came in.
Back when Stevie Wonder came in.
What the Stevie Wonder come to the club for?
Casey had him in the champagne room. Swears to God he isn't blind.
Wow.
That very much tickled me, because I have learned recently that is a popular conspiracy theory that Stevie...
I have not heard of that. Wow.
So that'll come up. I saw
incredible.
Recently, there was like a Twitter thread of like, okay, people, what are conspiracy theories that you actually believe are possible? And that was an answer that a lot of people said. I had never heard that was a thing, but it is a thing.
Wow.
That people believe that Stevie Wonder isn't really blind. And actually, the evidence is not very convincing. but that wasn't just an out of nowhere thing.
That's so funny. I wonder if the director is a true believer of that and put that in there, or what?
Is she a Stevie Wonder truther?
I don't know.
Truther.
That's an interesting question. Tell us, Lorene Scafaria.
Yeah, also my high school Italian teacher was Mr. Scafaria.
Oh, yeah?
Oh.
That name.
Nice.
I hope they're related somehow. I want to believe it.
In the way that all Italian Americans are related.
Cardi B, she had a really good line. It's the drain the clock, not the clock. I thought that was...
There were a lot of little catchphrases that they used to instruct other newbies.
Yeah.
Drain the clock, not the cock.
You want them drunk enough to get their credit card, but sober enough to sign a check.
I feel I should have written them down. There were a couple other ones that were really good. Little idioms that they came up with, workplace idioms.
They were really good at faking taking shots with all those guys, too. Constantly ordering drinks for the guys and then making it look like they've drank them themselves. And
they just toss it out. Was it bug you that you think of someone having to clean it up? Was it you? I know, when they just toss it.
Yeah.
I'm all for a montage, like partying and getting rich montage, but it drives me nuts in movies when people pour champagne onto their faces and onto the floor and just put it in a glass. I get that like money's no object now, and that's probably very expensive champagne that you're spilling everywhere, but still somebody's got to clean it up, and it's so sticky. I I already knew that, but I especially learned that one time I opened champagne in Amy's kitchen. My husband opened the champagne because I'm good at opening bottles of champagne. But my husband opened it.
Was that New Year's?
And literally, it was a Magnum. And literally the whole thing spewed out everywhere. And it was so sticky and gross.
I remember Richard grabbed the Newburger towel, which is my dad, because my dad is a Wall Street guy. And I think that's part of why he said there were no heroes in this movie.
He saw it.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
And, every year his firm sends us some random gift with the Team Kaminsky logo on it or something, and I just remember Rich grabbed a bath towel with the Team Kaminsky bath towel to clean up the champagne.
And it wasn't enough either. We were going to need a lot more Wall Street emblazoned towels to clean up the mess.
Right. So you guys only have one Wall Street towel? This is a Magnum of champagne.
But yeah, when they throw the shots over their shoulders, I wonder if the bartender was like,
right at the bar.
I enjoyed the little scene of Constance Wu and Jennifer Lopez in the small kitchen making the drugs.
Yeah,
it was just
they're experimenting on how to make the best concoction of ketamine and MDMA.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
Jennifer,
a little science experiment.
Yeah, and J-Lo constantly has the cigarette hanging out of her mouth. I just found it really hilarious. They're
that was
just
something that Garbosh took issue with. Also, she said I would never have cooked drugs or experimented with drugs in a kitchen with my child in the apartment.
Oh.
Which I was like, well, I don't know. We never saw the kids. Maybe they were not there at the time, but she was like, that's such bad parenting. Anytime you're putting heat to drugs on the stove, that's probably not a great idea.
They did show where they sample one, and then they just showed them waking up.
Yeah.
They just took the tiniest little bit, and they're like, yep.
I feel like she's got to just take the L on that one.
Too strong, obviously. Just a sprinkle. Yeah, that was another business catchphrase. Just a sprinkle in their drink. Oh yeah, they had a couple of scary moments. That really happened where the guy who hit his head in the pool. They did really have to take somebody to the emergency room.
Wait, was it? What did the guy do? Did he jump from a?
He jumps off the roof.
Okay, yeah.
Onto his pool deck, but I think in real life he just hit his head on the pool.
I was like, how is that guy not dead?
Yeah, he might have died. In the movie world, he might have died because he was not conscious when they got to the hospital. That was kind of a fun little moment with Destiny being like, "Oh my God, my husband!" And then as soon as they pulled the gurney away, she was like, "Okay, bye."
Later. Yeah, and then the part after that where she's taking her daughter to school, and just I know, and I just kept thinking, "There's blood all over your shirt."
I know, she has a blood stain.
Yeah, she's wearing her clothes from the night before.
Yeah,
and it's obvious that it's clothes from the night before, and she's got a big blood stain on her crop top, and she's dropping her daughter off, and then all the parents are all standing around and looking at her judgmentally, and I'm sure they look at her judgmentally all the time anyway.
Right, but you can tell she is not usually going to school with the leather pants and the crop top.
This was an unusual circumstance, and work went a little late because she had to take the guy to the emergency room. It was a very long scene of her going to get her daughter from the neighbor, and then driving there, and then walking her daughter in. Oh, it's hard to watch.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that she got out of there because I kept waiting for someone to call the police or grab her, but instead they just stared at her judgmentally, which is still very hard to watch. They didn't want to engage, I guess. Do you ask about the bloodstains, or you do not ask about the bloodstains?
Yeah. That felt true to me, that they would judge silently.
Yes. As parents do, would drop off so often. I really liked the line that J-Lo says about her swimwear line, her denim swimwear line. Yeah. You know, a lot of people are afraid to wear denim in the ocean.
Yeah, I would not wear denim in the ocean.
I like that that's her Shark Tank pitch. Yeah. People are afraid to do this. I think she's like, it actually softens the denim. Oh my god, I'm getting a rash just thinking about a denim swimsuit.
Swimona. That was the company.
Nice.
Her line.
Motherhood as a mental illness is a good line, even though it's very cinematic and probably didn't really happen. I really like that as a sort of catchphrase. I just like the way that when John told Destiny you could be a font because her handwriting is so neat.
Yeah, that is a really good line. You could be a font.
And then he bought her a computer because she's studying for school. She said, I have to write all my notes out because I don't have a computer. Then it cuts to her typing on a computer in the dressing room.
I like in the end, I didn't write it down so I don't remember exactly, but it was Ramona explaining, like she said, the world is a strip club.
Oh yeah, that's her Oscar.
Yeah, they'll show that like short for the nominations.
Yeah, says, this city, this whole country is a strip club. You've got people tossing their money and people doing the dance.
Right.
That's for sure her Oscar clip. It just has to be.
Yeah, and
I just could see that as she was saying it. I'm like, she probably knew it when she was delivering the line.
Right. Yeah, that one she probably did as many times as they wanted her to do.
Yeah.
Let's get this one just right.
Yeah.
What else does a suicide need, huh? Now, if you'll excuse me.
Most of the guys were just random dudes that I'd never seen before, but one of the guys who was kind of one of the more egregious guys was Frank Whaley.
Oh, yeah.
Which I thought Amy would notice.
Oh,
yeah.
You didn't notice?
Whaley.
Yeah, from Career Opportunities. Or is he in Swing Kids too? That's like another movie I recognize him.
Yeah,
Oh, right.
Pulp Fiction.
Oh.
And
oh yeah.
is he in Swimming with Sharks?
Yes, and Swimming with Sharks. Which is maybe worth a rewatch because he tortures Kevin Spacey in it. So.
Eventually he tortures Kevin Spacey. That's so funny because we just saw King of Comedy last night. When I lived in Boston, it was so sad. There was a film festival in Boston. Going to Boston from Seattle where there's this awesome film festival, and then like the Boston Film Festival was like the saddest thing. It was like in a couple screens in some movie theater in a mall. Not even one of like the cool movie theaters. It was just some like a Cineplex Odeon in a mall. The one movie that we saw at the Boston Film Festival was this movie that Frank Whaley, I think, wrote, definitely directed, and starred in. That was basically a King of Comedy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it was really bad. It was called The Joe Show or Joe the King or something.
Joe
Comedy. Yeah, the Joe Comedy. But no, I didn't notice him. That's a bummer. Even though
I was the guy that was chewing gum the whole time.
It doesn't stand out to me. But
I might have recognized him because he was in Luke Cage recently, and I already was familiar with the old Frank Whaley face.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen Frank Whaley since then, since Pulp Fiction, Swimming with Sharks, and
his hair has changed.
Okay.
Yeah, and he was the guy that was so rich he goes in through the back door of the strip club or
that's
something
right.
like.
That was him.
And no phones are allowed. That guy must spend a shit ton of money.
Oh, okay. So I remember the scene you're talking about. No, I did not know. Frank Whaley.
Yeah, he was a high roller at the club before they started the scam, and then he was one of the guys that they called later, and they drugged him. And he was still smacking away on that gum. They were really close up on his mouth.
Wait, was he the guy that was like, let's go fuck in the bathroom? That guy? Like, there's
Maybe.
one guy in the booth with the girl who throws up all the time. And he's like getting really aggressive and frisky. And he's like, let's real quick go fuck in the bathroom. And then her friends get here. Anyway,
I don't remember that part for some reason. But
I'm so disappointed that I missed it.
We'll have to watch it again.
Right.
Oh yeah, I would definitely go again.
Oh, yeah.
I'm down if you want to go.
And then John Glazer is JLo's boss, who doesn't get a chance to make a break.
Jammed from
Jam.
That's right. Oh, and then
I don't know his name. I know him as Jammed.
I was pleasantly surprised to see Mercedes Rule in that too. The house mother of the strip club.
Yeah, which is apparently a real thing. There's really a house mom in strip clubs who brings in cookies and takes care of the girls.
Oh my god, holy dream job for me.
Yeah.
That would be great.
Oh man, I haven't seen her since like The Fisher King. That was like 1992 or something.
I remember she was on Frasier for a while.
Yeah.
And Married to the Mob is what sticks out for me.
Yes, of course.
I'm sure I've seen her in other stuff since then. I was having a hard time, like, I know who this woman is, and I wasn't placing her.
Yeah, that's a good business plan for our Golden Girls phase.
Yeah.
To move to Portland and open
my
a strip
God.
club and bake cookies for all our
Yes.
strippers.
Oh my God,
Let's
yeah.
put
That would be, I like this plan.
Also, we were working maybe like childcare of the dancers' kids or something. 'Cause, I always
Oh
have
my God.
baby fever situations. Wouldn't
Wouldn't that be amazing?
Calling me mom and I'm baking and there's a strip club. Well, that would be.
I wonder if there are laws against having on-site daycare in a strip club. Or if you
Maybe
have
like
one
next door.
Next
or
door.
something.
Yeah.
Super close by. Have a little bus. Yeah.
All right. I feel like this is coming together.
This
Yeah.
is a great plan. Nobody
That's
steals
a great
plans from
idea.
us. We're doing this
Yeah.
in 20 years.
Or start it now and we'll take over the business from you.
Yeah. Sure. Actually, yeah. Maybe we
Right.
should all do this.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't be selfish with our ideas.
Right. I want all the strippers in
Right.
to be taken care of in this way. So
Right.
we'll take over the reins.
This is a really good idea.
So this is what's called a lunchtime poll.
The lunchtime poll question is, what 2007 or earlier song would be your signature stripping anthem?
When you first asked that question, I was thinking modern. I was like, let me just pick which Ariana Grande song I
Yes,
want.
yes.
If we're going pre-2007 I think I would go with Tempted by Squeeze.
Awesome.
Oh.
That's one of that
I'm going to have to listen to that.
A banger.
Yeah.
Can you say why?
I feel like the beat of it is a good kind of tempo. It was sort of similar in style to Criminal, which is J-Lo's song.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's kind of sexy. Tempted by the fruit of another, like, there's...
Yeah.
It just seems like it would apply
yeah.
to strip clubs.
What about you, Christine?
Well, I really liked the Gimme More Britney song, but I love Toxic by Britney Spears. I think that would be great. Yeah, that would be mine. It's just a fun.
You could be Britney and you could just
Right.
dance to Britney songs.
Oh my God! When I
feel
was,
like that would be hard to dance to, though. It's kind of fast. But I don't
yeah,
know.
maybe. I mean, I don't know. I could do like another one. It's like a slower one, but it's not like 2007. But it's the 11 Rockets song. It's like I don't know where color your eyes are, but your hair. Oh, It's Alive.
Oh,
That's
okay.
kind of a cool like slow song. That would be mine,
How
I
about
think.
you, Baxter? What's Baxter's banger?
My banger is Gentleman by the Afghan Wigs.
Ooh.
You guys know the Afghan Wigs?
I know that. I don't know the song. No.
They're one of my favorite bands from the late 90s, early aughts. It's like a sexy, sort of dangerous sounding song. It's a little edgy without being too obscure or alienating. I mean, people might not know the song, but they would feel the sexiness of it.
Yeah.
Whenever I did try to orchestrate sort of a sexy mood, I would put on Afghan Wigs.
Oh.
That album, which is called Gentleman, or Black Love, is their other really sexy from start to finish record. But it just always felt too contrived to have music on and too much pressure, but... and then I find myself like listening to the lyrics and wanting to sing along and it's distracting. It's really hard
to be quiet because your song's
yeah,
on.
exactly. All right, let's take a quick break here. I've got to sing this. But yeah, I love that song, and Greg Dulli's voice was hot.
Shut up. Hot Probs is on.
Oh shit, yeah.
Are there any hot probs with this movie?
That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, they were just trying to make a living. Nothing really stuck out for me in that way.
It could be more than just the movie itself. It could be story elements you didn't like. It could be performances you didn't like. It could be anything you didn't like. Anything that rubbed you the wrong way in any way.
I feel like there was maybe a scene kind of backstage with all of them that didn't feel that true. Like they were kind of joking about it. There was one scene that I was like, this feels much more like how people talk in movies than how they would talk in real life.
Mm-hmm.
But that's all that's really coming to me. How about you? Besides cleaning up the champagne.
The champagne is definitely a problem for me. I was at first kind of a little bit weirded out by just the way that Dorothy in the interview scenes was sort of being like really needy. And when the interviewer, who's played by Julia Stiles, says, I talked to Ramona, she says, what did she say about me? And she's like really desperate to know what she said about her. And then the interviewer asks her a question about, do you remember what the question is that she asks her? She just stands up and turns the recorder off.
Oh, right.
And kicks her out of her house.
Was that when she was like, can we go back to the drugging? And she's like, why are you so hung up on that? Was it, if it wasn't that, I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, so that's the thing is that I don't remember. At the time, I remember thinking that was a weird moment for her to get really upset. I did like the way they shot the idea of her turning the recorder off and then the sound drops out of the movie. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like the story we've heard up until that point is all just going to the recorder. I liked that just sort of little movie trick that they did. Then they show Julia Stiles leaving and looking kind of confused, and then they show her like arriving at home, and then she like puts her keys down and she kind of like sits down on the couch, and I'm just like, this is really weird. And then her phone rings, and then it's Dorothy, and she just like continues the sentence that she was saying before she turned the recorder off. At the time when I was watching the movie, I was like, that was kind of a weird narrative choice, and I don't know if I'm on board with this. It just seems kind of unnecessary and almost comically long in the way that they followed her all the way home and had her like kind of put her stuff down. But then when I read the article itself, the things she says are kind of weird in that way. She does kind of contradict herself, and she does seem like certain things set her off that are unexpected. I don't know if they were trying to capture her just sort of volatility. So I kind of, after I read the article, then I didn't dislike that part as much. But when I was watching the movie, I was a little off-put by it. Just in terms of a storytelling device, I didn't really understand what they were trying to illustrate.
Yeah, I guess for me also, I was puzzled by bleeping out the guy's name. Like that was just like jarring.
Why not just change the name since they changed everybody else's name?
Right. Yeah. That really like kind of took me out of the movie.
Which part? Where do they bleep?
When they get to talking about the guy who actually did call the police and follow through, like they say Doug, beep, and like they said his name, but then it was bleeped out, which was just such a strange thing to do.
Odd.
I mean, I'm sure she had a reason for doing it that way. I don't know what her
But it wasn't.
It wasn't that clear to me.
It should be clear to the viewer why they're being made. Like you said, it takes you out of the movie.
Yeah, it was almost like breaking the fourth wall,
Yeah.
kind of, which I'm not against in a movie, but it was just puzzling to me.
It seemed like the crime ended up becoming like the routine of them having the one girl get the credit card and a PIN or something. Then they call the credit card company to use the card, and they're like, "What's my limit? Oh, 50,000. Okay, let's use all of 50,000." Is it really that easy? I don't know.
Yeah, that's because it would have a man's name on it.
Right, exactly. Like, how are they getting around? Well, there's that scene where like they're like, what's your mother's maiden name or whatever to the guy who's like drugged out, and
that was
it's like
real.
I'm
like, really did do that.
Wow.
Kind of just pump them for information like that. Yeah, like what's your first pet's name? What's like all the security questions? They would do just little scams like that here and there, and it was just later on when they decided to start maxing out the cards that they got caught. At first, they were smart about just kind of like picking a little bit money here and there, and nobody would miss it, or if they did miss it, as they said, they wouldn't report it because of what they were doing at the time.
I've had to like try to help my mom with things like using her account over the phone so many times, and they're like, what's the birth date? And I'm like, 1947. And that would be so hard for them to get like a $50,000 over the phone.
When Rich will go to Portland and he gets a call for like suspicious activity on your car.
That is so not suspicious.
Yeah. And I feel like there was a straight period of time where it's like anytime he traveled 40 miles outside of Portland, it was like, decline, suspicious activity.
If anything, I would think the credit card company would call and be like, you haven't been to Portland in a while.
Did you have a falling out with a friend there? Should we do Ken's 2 cents?
Ken's 2 cents.
So he saw it? And
he did, yeah. He sees pretty much everything.
Oh, nice.
I am pretty certain that he has never been to a strip club. So I don't know, but...
you didn't feel like you should ask?
I would ask, I just didn't think to, We didn't really talk about it other than because I texted him to ask what he remembered about Heathers, because we did see Heathers together like 30 years ago.
Oh.
He didn't remember seeing it, and then he just said, but if you're looking for a movie that has no heroes, go see Hustlers. Oh, I will go see Hustlers. I'm sure I will think that there are heroes in that movie, which I did. But that's all I say. I feel like I should follow up with him, especially because he is a Wall Street guy, but he never defends the Wall Street guys in movies. A little bit the one guy in The Big Short, the guy that Steve Carell played. He did have sympathy for that character.
There was a hero in that one.
I want to see that.
I don't know about hero, but I remember because I thought the movie was too sympathetic to that specific character. I think he knew personally the guy it was based on.
Oh, wow.
Constance 2 cents.
That speech that Ramona has about, like, these guys didn't go to jail.
You see what they did to this country? They stole from everybody. Hardworking people lost everything. And not one of these douchebags went to jail. Not one. Is that fair? You ever think about when they come into the club? That's stolen money. That's what's paying for their blowjobs. The firefighters' retirement fund.
And they screwed everyone over, and it's like they end up getting in trouble. They committed a crime, and yeah, they drug. Yeah, but it's like, I mean, obviously, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but like.
How it feels about that whole crisis is that there's like a handful of people, like 3 or 4 people that the whole thing rests on, that it's really the actions of a few specific people. And I also remember years before it happened, him saying that this is what was going to happen, that like, what's going to, the subprime mortgages, there's more and more people who are going to get in over their head getting mortgages that they're really not qualified for, and what's going to happen is all going to fall apart and the government is going to have to bail them out. I think he has sympathy for the people who, for like all the traders and stockbrokers, and there's a handful of like the big high, behind the scenes that he's like, this is all on their hands.
It's interesting how many people say they saw that coming and didn't do anything about it, or I guess they couldn't, but...
Yeah, I don't know what he could have done, to be like, okay, let's stop approving mortgages.
Yeah.
And I guess that's why he sees it that way. There weren't many people who had the power to say, this needs to stop because it's not sustainable.
That's indicative of a lot of crimes and long-term scams like that.
Right. Yeah,
it's never sustainable.
It was essentially a pyramid scheme.
Yeah.
And so I think people involved in pyramid schemes know that it's not sustainable and that it is eventually going to fall apart.
Yeah, and they just milk it for all it's worth for as long as they can.
Right.
You just need to have a backup scam for when that falls through. Oh, another thing that Keo, the woman that Destiny is based on, didn't like about the movie was that she thought that Ramona got all the best lines.
Oh.
And she said that the comparison to Shaq and Kobe was actually her line. And she said, I was the one that said we were Shaq and Kobe. She didn't like that Ramona was wittier and stronger than her character. She thought that her character was too timid and not representational of her strength and wit. Also, she has a book coming out. The Sophisticated Hustler is the name of the book, and it apparently has a lot more juicy details. So that might be an interesting read.
Yeah.
Wow.
To read.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's out yet, but it's coming out soon if it hasn't already. Good timing. I'm sure that she meant to tie it in with the movie. Is that it for Hustlers?
I think so.
Sure. All right.
Like some Thai food.
Thank you.
That can be off. What
do you guys want for Thai food?
Right.
Okay.
Lunchtime poll.
Right. Email us. Tell us what your Thai food order is. On the next episode of Paid and Puke, we talk about F. Gary Gray's 1996 crime action heist film Set It Off, starring Queen Latifah, Vivica A. Fox, Jada Pinkett, and Kimberly Elise. Guess what? It's still relevant. Paid and Puke is hosted by Amy Green, Christina Barr, and Jessica Baxter. Music by Silent Partner. Follow us on Twitter at Paid and Puke Pod, or join us on Facebook at Paid and Puke Podcast. Thanks for listening.
Lick it up, baby. Lick it